got it. I figured it out. This has to be the one. I've got a good feeling about this.
Try to write your first draft in as short a time as possible. If you're trying to write a short script or a short story, try and do it in one sitting. But if you're doing a longer story, like a feature film or a TV series or a novel, then I definitely recommend doing it over one season, like 3 months. Don't worry about details or outlining, just make sure you have a story to tell first, and then go into more detail. Writing your first draft is like starting a grand adventure. You know where the destination is, to write a great story, but you don't know how to get there. You don't know what the journey is. You have a couple of ideas of how to get there, but ultimately, you won't know until you step out the door. So you might as well get going. Your protagonist is your story. If your main character sucks, then your whole story sucks. One thing every protagonist has to do is make decisions. Decisions that will ultimately land themselves in the mess that propels the plot forward. As well as this, they must come to a crisis point and decide to get themselves out of said mess. To further develop your protagonist, use other characters to bring out other parts of their personality. For instance, the villain can bring out their more combative side, or a side character, someone for the protagonist to look after, can bring out their softer side. To create suspense, one must pose a dramatic question. Will he make it? Will they confess their love for one another? Will she get the last donut at the office party?
By putting your protagonist's fate in doubt, you make sure the audience asks, what will happen next? But whatever you do, don't overshare the information. Carefully restrict it to keep the audience interested. Yeah!
Ugh. Show, don't tell is incredibly overused, but it's also incredibly effective. Your audience deserves to have a hell of a visual ride over a giant exposition dump. What the hell was that voice? Good dialogue comes from two things. Intimate knowledge of your characters, and a ton of rewrites. Each character has their own unique voice, mannerisms, and way of speaking, so make sure they all sound different from one another. Always ask the question, does this sound like my character? If the answer is no, then back to rewrites with you. Death comes for us all. Think about great films and shows you've seen and books you've read recently. How many of them dealt with a death? Stories like Harry Potter, The Hunger Games, Charlotte's Web, Lord of the Rings, and Avengers Endgame. They've all dealt with the death of a main character. Death is a universal theme because everyone alive will one day die. Most writers have about 3 or more drafts. The first draft, or the vomit draft, or the shitty first draft, is where you can feel out your story and figure out what it's going to be about. Don't show anyone your first draft. Ever. Your second draft is not for polishing. Don't try and clean up the messy first draft just yet. The second draft is for making major structural changes, clarifying plot points and characters, and any other big changes you may or may not want to make. The third draft is polishing time. This is when you should deep dive into your story and when things will start to gel together. It's the fun part, hooray! But without the first 2 drafts, polishing is a waste of time. Good writers know all the rules and follow them. Great writers know all the rules and break them. However, the best writers, they don't just break the rules willy-nilly. They only break them when their story requires a whole new set of rules. Respect the rules, kids. But remember, you don't serve the rules. You serve your stories. The best way to defeat writer's block is to write. Plain and simple. When you're stuck, don't try and write well or be a perfectionist. Just write. Sometimes the best way to create is just take the pressure off, and just write stuff. Personally, I think people can write better stories when they know someone else is going to read it. When you share your writing, you face the possibility of failure, which can push you to write the best story you can. So share your stories in contests, with friends and family, with your writing peers, wherever, it doesn't matter. Just get yourself out there. The best tip I can give you about writing better stories is to practice. Just write, learn more, take the critiques and the praise and build on them. Practice makes perfect and all that. Here we are, at the end of our journey today. This was the longest I've been on camera in a video for a very long time. As always, I hope this video has helped you lovely people out there in any way, shape or form. And I'll see you next time. Bye!